Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. Our guest is Larry Ryan Lawn and Tree, and I'm really excited to have him on because Larry and his company are going to be the host of our Summer Growth Summit coming up August 21st to 22nd for the public. Our clients know we always have a pre-day of education. If you want to learn more about the summit, go to my website, www.JeffreyScott.biz. You go to the events page and you can find the link to sign up and get more information. This is a great preview. I've asked Larry to share really the 5 major growth strategies and tactics that they use. And really, we discussed more than 5, and Larry's a brilliant guy and very humble. You will see that. Always gives other people credit. Always hungry for learning. And that's really one of the 5 growth strategies. And he'll talk about this throughout the podcast, where he's learned, how he's learned. And so that really comes through. We talk about his ability to set up a company through the hedgehog concept, which is good to great if you've read that book. They talk about focusing on one service and then cross-selling from that service. Cross-selling is hard. Woven throughout this whole podcast, we touch on cross-selling, and even at the end, he gives a great quote from a branding expert from Coca-Cola. I won't give it away, but really eye-opening definition of branding as it connects to cross-selling. I found that really interesting to learn from Larry. We talk about acquisitions and how they've balanced organic with acquisitions and their speed of growth. We talk about high margin services. Servant leadership is really important to Larry. So we talk about that and how it connects with their frontline first strategy. And, there's a lot to unpack here. We didn't unpack everything, but you'll learn some about each of these strategies when you listen to the podcast. We talk about their internal coaching program and their career ladders, where it works and then where it doesn't work, and what he's had to do to overcome those challenges. And we talk about the great game of business, how they've implemented it and how they've made it, adapted it for their company. Great game of business really is an open book management and profit sharing strategy. And it's a great book you can read. By the way, that book is also in Spanish. You can find it if you Google it on the internet. You can find copies in Spanish if you want your immigrant workforce to learn about the great game of business. We cover so many different things here, including ESOP and how it's given back to his employees. And it's a great podcast. It's going to flow. It's going to give you a taste for our Summer Growth Summit, which is coming up. Again, that's August 21st and 22nd. I'd urge you to at least look at it and look about it. It's, I'm told, one of the best ways to build camaraderie within your company and a way to see facility tours deep in depth. This is not just a quick facility tour, but we spend all day diving into 2 facilities, headquarters and a branch, hearing from the people that run these facilities and really choreographed presentations. And the next day we hear from their executive team and they really spill the beans. These guys are very open book, quote unquote. And day 2, we spill the beans, and there's a lot of other speakers as well. I'm speaking, and I bring the best of the best from our community to speak as well. The people I call the mighty oak winners. And so an excellent learning opportunity, an excellent way to level up your team when you bring them. We have group discounts when you bring your team, so you can email us about that. But here we go. Let's bring on Larry Ryan. Larry Ryan, welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Jeffrey. It's good to see you today.
You are the second person only that I've ever had on twice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
So
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. You said that I did a good job last time. Well, now you have to even outdo yourself or not. We'll cover some different topics.
Sounds good.
Well, can you begin by introducing yourself and your company to the audience?
Yes, Jeffrey. My name is Larry Ryan, and the company is Ryan Lawn and Tree. A little overview on the company is we celebrate our 37th anniversary on March 1st. Very blessed. I'm so sorry. I'm 74 years old, and I started when I was 37. Not quite ready to quit yet because we still have some things to accomplish. So
you've done a great job of building this company without outside investment. I'm assuming. I'm not sure I specifically asked you that, but I think that's correct, right?
Yes, it is.
And so, today's day of easy money, quick money, there's all this excitement excitement in the trades, publications about private investment, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it looks great on the outside, and I'm sure some of it is working well, and I think others has a mixed story, but you have accomplished a significant growth rate all by yourself.
Not totally all by myself. I give our Lord so much credit for it. Jeffrey, a huge part of that, though, is taking an economics class in college, allocation of scarce resources. And what do you choose to invest your money in? If I would have taken money out of the company and bought a second house and boats and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't have had the money to do this. And I think living a very modest lifestyle for the last 37 years, what gives you pleasure in life? And for me, I love work, but I really love work when you work with people that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And instead of taking money out of the company, we invested in the quality of people, and they're really the ones who grew this company.
So instead of buying yourself another car, you bought another truck. Instead of buying a boat,
Correct.
You bought 4 more trucks.
Sometimes I tongue-in-cheek say, well, I bought 4 boats, but one of them's a canoe I bought for my 5-year-old son that we would spend time together on Sunday afternoon fishing, and then 3 kayaks. So I probably have $1,000 in all 4. But, by putting that money into the company and keep reinvesting back in, it's Warren Buffett's thing that the more you reinvest back in, I think we could have grown 25% a year had I been as smart as you. Sadly, I had to learn as I was going, and I was a little bit prideful. And by that, I mean, I didn't study other businesses and those of you that really taught people how to grow well. So I was kind of learning as I went. But I also had a great teacher when I was 25 years old. I worked for the guy that started Pizza Hut.
Okay.
And he said, Larry, wait until you're 30 to start your business. And I waited until I was 37 because at 27, I wanted to start a tree business. And what I learned in those next 8 years changed my life. I sold pizzas, well, not with him, but with a competing company for 8 years. And there, while I was getting paid very little, but I worked so much I didn't have time to spend anything, I learned HR and a lot of things about marketing and recruiting, and it just went on and on. Spreadsheets. I was very introverted as a young person, or maybe shy is just simply a better word. A friend dragged me to a Toastmasters club. I spent 8 years there learning how to make a presentation. All of those things work together that when put it together when I was 37 years old, 1987, the first 2 years, I grew 600 accounts going door to door with my spreader and a flyer I'd stick on a door, and it really worked well. And then from there, because of the focus, I'd worked with Don Clifton when I was selling pizzas. He had a company called Selection Research, which now is owned by Gallup.
Yeah.
And it said, if you're going to hire, your number one priority in life should be to recruit, hire, and keep great people. And he compared it back to the University of Nebraska football team. He said, we win games because we have great players. And I just modeled that. I'm not into sports, but I think there's great lessons from sports. So it was my teacher, Jeffrey. Yeah.
I like how you mentioned Warren Buffett. I quote him a lot when I talk to owners about retiring in place and building their succession plan. And if you look at Warren's wealth that he has now, and if he had sold when he was retirement age, you never would have heard of him.
No.
Because he'd be a millionaire, and he might even be a billionaire, but I'd have to go look at the numbers. But he would not be on our horizon. And he really understood compound interest. So
Yes,
instead of buying the boat or the new house, and I think he still lives in his same old house from decades and decades ago. He reinvested in that compound interest. You look at the logarithmic curve of his success. You can just Google it and look it up, and it really takes off because of that compound interest. And really, I think that's what you're saying. You're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I had a friend that worked for him. She was actually his receptionist. And she said, Larry, he was quite a boring person. All day long, he would come in with his papers, kind of nod, maybe say hi, and go sit in his office and read all day long. But we think he was boring. He was loving doing that. Everybody has their own gift, right? And that was his gift. And he just studied companies. Who's the next best company to buy? He didn't buy our industry, which we would have to, if you buy somebody in our industry, you have to show them how to run their business, right? In most of the cases. And he didn't buy that. He wanted companies that were well run, that were worth the money. And that's who he invested in. Yeah. So,
you don't know. Maybe he's looking at our industry now.
Maybe, but I think he's letting private equity have our industry. He wants bigger. He might buy the private equity company.
I always wondered who they would sell to, because they have to sell to somebody. So,
yeah, eventually.
The reason I invited you back is we're holding our Summer Growth Summit at your headquarters. So, by the way, thank you very much for offering to do that.
You're very welcome, and we're honored that you would ask us.
It's it's a mutual honor then. And so I have some notes here on 5 things that I think makes you unique, and or those make it interesting for someone to what we're going to learn. And one of them is like a simplistic one, and you've really already talked about it. And that is that I see you as a lifelong learner. When I first visited you, I think you pulled out 10 books. And you're like, here, read this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. It definitely was forefront. I think it was like the first thing you brought up in our conversations. And so how does that lifelong learning translate into your company?
Well, we're all driven by something, right? And this is I'll just state it. I'm driven by who I wasn't and who I wanted to be. And I've carried insecurities all my life, not felt good enough about who I was, thinking that there were people, God was expecting more out of me. And so it just drove me to start. And I was very fortunate to start reading early on. Not that we weren't readers when we were little, but Peter Drucker was the first author that I stumbled across, and I just fell in love with him. And he just led me to one person after another, like Jim Collins and all those. Now, I say I'm a lifelong learner, but I'm kind of a C student on a good day. And so I'll read a book and not necessarily understand it. And then if I get somebody else to read it, we can discuss it, because I'm kind of verbal and visual. And then it starts making more sense. But Jeffrey, having people like yourself to discuss things with all my life has made so much difference. We have just borrowed ideas from different people. Yeah. It used to make our last CFO kind of nuts, because he said, well, you're reading all this and you do stuff and then you throw it away. And actually, our head of operations had a different take on it. He said, no, we're grabbing a point out of this and a point out of that. We read Great Game of Business 25 years ago, and we didn't implement the whole thing, but we were already open book. And I think open book is one of the great things you take out of Great Game of Business.
Well, let's segue to that. But real quick about Peter Drucker, he's also this other great person who, by the way, he wrote most of his books after retirement age. And so he's like Warren Buffett, who, if you look at the value curve of the value he created, it's really in the latter part of his life as well.
Yeah, he died about 2002, I think, and he was maybe 92. So that would make him born about. I listened to him in the 80s when he predicted that the USSR would not stand. He said it does not have the economy to carry all of its commitments. And we saw it implode and turn into Russia, and the country go to 1/2 its size.
Yeah.
Now that it's kind of going through maybe a resurrection or something. But he predicted a lot of things like that. I listened to him right before he died, and he was podcast into just a marvelous man, he had so many cliches that good management follows good measurement. Behind every successful venture, there's a monomaniac on a mission. I believe that today. I still think you have to have somebody that's almost crazy nuts driving things to really get out of it what's possible.
Yeah. So, I've always wondered who the crazy nut was behind Apple after Steve Jobs. I don't know if there is one, or is
Tim
it
is doing a marvelous job. I think it's Tim Cook.
Well, he's a different kind of monomaniac.
Totally different. But, one of Drucker's comments was the entrepreneur that starts it is not the person that takes it to the next level. And we see that with Walmart with Sam Walton. Yeah. They said it wouldn't last, but it's done quite well. Now, Amazon, Bezos is still there. He was a genius. I have a brother that's very similar that's taken a company to 30 billion. And yeah, some of those people, that's a drive it's just not what we would call normal, but it's them. Work-life balance. I don't even know what that means, but everybody has their thing they want to accomplish or feel like they need to accomplish in life. And some are driven to the point that they'll go through you if you get in their ways, and others, whatever. They don't care.
They'll go through you or pick you up on the way.
Right.
Hey, so let's talk about Great Game of Business. That's one of the reasons I'm excited to visit you for our Summer Growth Summit, by the way, which is August 21st and 22nd for the public. And so one of the reasons is how you follow the Great Game of Business and profit sharing. And so I asked your COO, he thought you implemented it about 80%. I mean, it's, Great Game of Business, there's a lot of specifics, and I think everybody implements it to some percentage. I don't think, I'm not judging that at all.
Right.
But what have you adapted from it that you think has had the biggest impact?
Well, start with open book management. Something as simple as if I go out and give a bid for a pruning job, and then you are on head of the pruning team and you know how much the bid was, and you finish the job with a certain dollars per man hour, you give me feedback. You say, Larry, that was an awfully low price bid that you gave, and we worked all day for $20 an hour. And I don't think, is that really what we're in business for? Versus the next day, the bid is, Larry, that was a lot better. We got $95 an hour. What's the difference between what were you thinking on the second bid versus the first one? So what have we done? We've opened up a communication between you and me. And how do I really know whether a bid is good or not if that's not going on? I know plenty of small businesses that they're afraid to let their people know how many dollars they're producing every day for fear that people will think that the owner's getting rich. Well, if you're getting rich, they've already figured it out by the type of car you have and the house you live in. The guy that says, gosh, at the end of the year, I'd love to give you guys a raise, but it's been a tight year and I just can't this year. And they know you've added a huge wing onto your lake house. They figured you out. It's selfishness. So don't think that you're hiding things from people.
It's interesting, though. Sometimes the opposite happens where the owner lives normal life and the employees think he or she is rich because they don't share the numbers and the employees are just guessing. And, my experience is when they guess, they tend to guess, this is just coincidence or not, but they tend to guess the gross profit as the net profit.
They do.
If your gross profit's 50%, just for say, they think you're making 50%. And almost to a T, everybody who's done open book of my clients, their employees their eyes have opened up to see. Oh. Yeah. So you've probably seen that.
Oh, absolutely. In high involvement planning, they know how much money we're making. And then the other thing they use is people will support what they help create. And so they create their own budget for the year. They create the profits. And then we have a stake in the outcome, SIO bonus. And so that if they exceed that, their bonus goes up as they exceed the budget because the profits are going up. And you talk about motivating. The biggest issue would be nice if you could share it every day, but you can't. But, the more often they say you share bonuses with people, the more it motivates them. But once a year, we do it. We were doing it quarterly, and now we've gone to twice a year. But this year, we're starting off very strong because we had an excellent winter
Yeah.
that we're working with. And so there's going to be a nice bonus. We're doing it monthly now, and there's going to be a nice bonus for people at the end of this month or whenever the next paycheck is.
I've always had an issue with the quarterly. I mean, I get that the stock market works that way and non-seasonal businesses may work that way. In our industry,
It's tough.
Your last quarter, your last 2 months even could make or break your year. And so you said your profit sharing is now twice a year?
Well, actually, we've gone to we don't actually share profits, but we've gone to a bonus every month based on exceeding their plan.
Yeah.
And then when you're employee owned, profit sharing, we don't give them that extra bonus like another business, but it'll go into their stock account.
Yeah.
We like telling the story that we had a guy that retired at 21. In 2021, he was 65 years old. He had joined us in 1999 when he was 43. And by living frugally and investing carefully, he got a check as a pruner and tree sprayer, plant healthcare. He got a check for $865,000 when he retired for 22 years of service. That's pretty significant. That's $40,000 extra a year.
So because you're doing ESOP, it is in effect profit sharing. So you do the monthly bonus and then they get that bigger bang at the end.
What people don't understand, I'm a forestry guy, a farmer, but I still took a few accounting courses. But once I learned what contribution margin was, and people tell you, well, you're making 9% profit. So if we run another dollar, it'll put 9 more cents on the bottom line. That's not true at all. If you run that other dollar and you haven't changed anything else, it's probably going to put 30 cents on the bottom line. And so that's why you want to run a lot of dollars above your plan without adding another truck and another building and another employee. And then if you'll share a bigger part of that back with the people, they start understanding what contribution margin is. But even accountants don't sometimes understand that. I was fortunate because I took them.
You said even, and I would say all accountants, except for those at the top tier.
Yeah.
None of them.
The only reason I understood it is because I had 5 restaurants I think I was running in Kansas City when I took my accounting courses. And we had one store that was doing $10,000 a week, and it was making about $9,000 a month. We found out that at $5,000 a week, we were break even. And at $3,500 a week, we were losing $2,000 a month. So we saw that when you incrementally added on those revenues through that same store, and the only thing you changed was your percentage labor costs because you had to have more people, more man hours to run the extra volume. The food cost didn't change as a percentage. The rent was already paid for, the lights, et cetera. Yeah. And those were the stores that just flooded money to the bottom line. So you want one store doing very well versus 2 mediocre stores. You also only have one manager then too to worry about. And I think the same is true in our business.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. People talk about knowing their break-even date, and I don't know if I'm a believer. I have to think if I'm a believer in that or not, because knowing your break-even date, I mean, the sooner you break even, the better. But what you said to me is more important. If you beat your year-end budget and your fixed costs don't go up, that's when you get the most leverage on your profitability.
Yes. What you're doing, Jeffrey, then is you're moving that break-even date up quicker to the beginning of the year. They say Black Friday is when the average retail store starts making money. Well, it just hit its break even. Then after that, it's dropping 20, 30, 40% to the bottom line. It depends. Retail is a much slimmer margin.
My point is, once you hit that break even, that's not the time to celebrate. That's the time to put your head down.
Put the hammer down.
Yeah, and keep going. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's segue here a bit. You're a forester. You have a mixed service business. All the high margin services, more or less. I'm sure you have some that you've weeded out over the years, but you have a really nice mix of services, including you've added landscape to it, which can be high margin, high gross profit per hour. And I believe, you talked about good to great, right? So I think you've really applied that hedgehog. Am I right on that? That you've got the tip of the spear. We sell service X, and then we cross-sell all the other services. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct. We're there anyway. Why don't we do this? Now, landscaping is the most difficult of anything we do because it's complicated, right? It's construction, like building a home. There are a lot of parts that you have to keep track of, and if you don't, it's the easiest way to lose money, I think, is landscaping. For me, irrigation is difficult also, though. It's really leadership, and you get the right leader in it. We think we finally have the right leader in irrigation in Kansas City, and it's just changed dramatically. So turf is fairly simple. Even pruning is not terribly complicated. Pest, plant health, those are all fairly simple. Though plant health, if you really do it right, it's hard to grow it, because if you're honest, once we control a pest and it goes away, we quit doing the application for that pest. And, emerald ash borer is a great example. Those trees are dying, and in 20 years, they'll all be gone. So that business won't be here anymore. But we've learned a lot from it, and it created revenue that helps us to invest in other things and just grow our people. So every one of these is a learning event or moment for us. But plant health is real profitable for us because we price those services correctly per dollar revenue. But really it's profitable because we have other things they only bring in about 6 months of revenue a year, and then they help turf and they help the other departments, pruning, et cetera. So.
You sound mixed on irrigation, or you sound like you're changing your tune. I mean, I don't mean that negatively. I just mean...
No, we work all the time with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, those that have figured irrigation service out, they sing a happy tune.
It can be really good. And I get that. And some of it depends on the market you're in and what the competition is priced the service for. In Kansas City, it used to be a very almost giveaway service to get another type of business. But the good companies say, I don't care what the competition is doing. We're going to have really good people out there, and we're going to price it where we can make money, for a turn off maybe $150 for each one of those services. And then those services lead to a lot of other work in irrigation. So service work.
Yeah, I think definitely install to me is more unstable. I have clients that kill it and other clients that get killed. But service, I do think, is a model like fertilizer that you just have to, you got to figure it out. You got to do fixed price, and then you're off to the races.
Our biggest, I think, issue in our industry is the ease of entry. So many people not knowing how to price, and they'll just give services away until they run out of money. And that's just crazy. Once you really get it figured out, and you'll not hear us when you come and visit say that we've got everything figured out. As a company, we do well.
Yeah.
And we like that because we do well. And we just had a board meeting today with our inside-outside board, and they're a very demanding group of people because we're in this for the long run. We aren't building a business to sell. Larry Ryan has already, I guess, if you will, sold the company. I'm an employee too, so I have employee stock ownership like everybody else. I have a little bit more than the other people because I made a little bit more money, but never overpaid myself. So some people are coming awful close to me. That's fine. The fact that we're in it for the long run, we take a totally different attitude. The quality of people and our people mean much more to us than a short-term dollar.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see that in action again. You're a big believer in, so another reason that I was excited about, choosing you, and I'm glad you said yes, and I'm excited to come visit, is the whole people first, frontline first attitude. There's others in the industry, if you follow like LinkedIn,
there are
that promote this.
Very good ones.
Yeah. And I think some are figuring out what that means. I think some say it and it's an attitude, but it may or may not translate to that person's career. And there's people all over the spectrum. And so don't tell us everything here on the podcast, because we still want to come visit you, but like share one thing you do that makes you a frontline first company.
This isn't going to be what you expect, but I will tell you, I wear my faith on my sleeve. And because of that, people look for you to not tell the truth or to you to make a mistake, right? And when I do, I make plenty, but I share it with them. They've seen me in tears and everything else. We work really hard to serve the people. At the board meeting today, somebody mentioned C-suite, and I said, no, that's S-suite in our company, which means servant suite. because we are truly here to serve those people in the field. Tomorrow morning, I'll get up at 3 o'clock, be on the road at 3:30 and drive to Wichita, Kansas, and I'll spend the morning with the staff and then drive home. But just to show up in the morning and say hi to the staff and ask them how they're doing and all those sort of things. And Jeffrey, I wish I had your memory. I cannot remember all of my people's names. I can only remember about a fourth of them. That's quite embarrassing. And I was actually talking with a young man today about that. His name is Clint, and I couldn't remember his name. So today I tagged it with Clint Eastwood, and that's the only reason it popped back right now.
Yeah.
I want people to know there's a deeper purpose to life. If they're just working for a paycheck, they're working for a check to take care of that little baby girl that they just had at home. And they're working for that check so they can have a meaningful conversation with their wife and not worried about something else because they have full health coverage that when they have the next little baby and it's a preemie, it's not going to bankrupt them and on and on. But that deeper sense of purpose gives me a different drive. It gives those folks hopefully a different drive, and they know I'm thrifty. I used to laugh for years. Anybody could go and have lunch with me at McDonald's. I used to do that just because of the dollar menu, and you can make a point. It's not that I love McDonald's, but you've got to make points in life. You got to tell a story, right? And that is really what has made a difference in our company, I believe. Okay. So I don't have that lake house, mountain home, whatever. And I probably could have one now if I wanted, but I got too many other things that are important things to give money to. I think that's made a difference for the people too, because they see me as not arrogant. And I get prideful. I got to work on that all the time, but I just love that one-on-one conversation with them. I look at them as like I'm talking to my own child. So if they're young, I'm talking down to them. I don't mean that at all.
Yeah. A client of mine said something that really stuck with me. He said, when things are going tough in our business, I don't look at my budget first. I look at my employees' budgets first. I think about their budget first and my budget second. And that's
wonderful.
That really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I like that. That would stick with me too. Gosh, we've some amazing stories in our company.
Do you teach your employees how to run their own personal budgets?
No, we don't. And there's been Dave Ramsey come and go in our company, but no, we don't. And that really, I think we do have courses on Ryan U about that, because our university of courses is really extensive. But that should be a committed class that everybody has to take to go from step 1 to step 2, shouldn't it? Just things like, I have a 28-year-old son that eats his meals at the convenience store and vapes and chews and does all those other expensive habits when he can barely get by.
Yeah.
Now, he's got to learn that. So, yeah, I tell you, our people teach each other, though. We've got some wonderful examples all throughout the company that the new people look to because they just are those type of magnetic leaders that the people respect them. We went to evangelistic banquet last night to raise money for people that were witnessing on college campuses, and 5 of our employees went with us. And one of those employees is very thrifty. He runs our entire turf department in Kansas City, which is bigger than most companies in our industry, which I know 17 million or something. But the way he lives his life is a great witness for everybody else. And the fact that he was there last night with a checkbook, and maybe it's $10 or $100, I don't care what he gives, but he was there. So, yeah. When you share with people, you learn to be thrifty. You don't waste as much.
Yeah. I wish they taught budgeting in school, in high school. Mm-hmm. And if I could go in and have control of our schools, a lot I would change. But
Jeffrey, maybe what we need to do, would we have listened when we were in high school and on mom and dad's dole? Maybe you need to teach it now to the businesses, or you get a sub component of your organization to do that, and you have another course that you sell to your people's people. So I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sure. I was just saying in high school, I mean, I love the economics classes, but I hear you. Most people might turn their attention off. Let's talk about one more thing here that I'm excited about, and that is that about your company, about personal coaches that you have developed within your firm to help your employees move up the career ladder. So you have great career ladders, and we'll see those when we come visit. But you also have, teachers, coaches, guides, whatever you call them, to make sure that people actually climb up these career ladders. Can you say something about that?
Okay, I'm a student of Strength Finders of the book, or OAD, Culture Index, Predictive Index, any of those models for predicting behaviors, for saying what a person's gifts are. One of the issues that we have is that we've hired a lot of craftsman type personalities that love doing one job. Like, we've taken that turf tech position and turned it into what we call a turf manager. And it's a great position for the right person. And we really are specific who we put in those, because it's a sales position. It's a craftsman's position. We haven't like those guys with horticulture turfgrass degrees. We picked up a lot of golf course assistant superintendents. You can take that knowledge and one-on-one with clients and show them how to have beautiful lawns. You develop relationships. And so one of the things that we look for with those people is, are they relationship building people? They fall in love with the job. And they make a pretty nice salary too. The more they produce, the more they make. But as far as career, a lot of those don't want to go up. So where we've made a mistake is not hiring enough of the trailblazer personalities like myself that are ambitious, driven to be more than what they are today, and they want to be more tomorrow than what they were or the day after that. So yes, the HR person we have now and the previous one have done a nice job of building out the career ladders, and that's what we'll share with your people when they come. But there's ways for people to be promoted. But what we don't do is promote the best turf manager to be a turf team leader, because unless they have the gifts, what I find a good leader, I'm not a good leader, is somebody who's very comfortable with him or herself. The company that we bought in Omaha 2 years ago, that manager is one of those individuals who's very comfortable, and he just flows into the position. He can sit down and coach people. He has no chip on his shoulder and so those are the people that we're really trying to promote. But for the others that want to stay in the job between their stock and the ESOP, employee stock ownership, their 401k, and their salary, they are doing, for our industry, very well. We had a guy leave the other day, and very recently, that was just recently vested. Sadly, for $10,000, people are trying to get some of our people for a few dollars more. He will lose 5 years from now. He'll be so far behind in money that he will be sad about it, I believe. And then we don't find that the companies that are trying to pick our people off are very stable companies. They can still lure you on the short term. Most of them come back.
So can that guy come back?
Can you come back? I would love that.
No, the guy that left?
It depends. It depends how they left and their behavior after they left. We had one that left about 9 or 10 years ago. He's been back 4 years. He's our highest producer in the company. And the company that made him all the promises, they lured another fellow away, and the fellow said he was going to go. So we had that individual ride with Chris for the week, his last week of, his 2 week severance or notice. And Chris talked him into staying. He said, they promised so much and none of it was delivered. And so the guy said, well, I'm not going to take a chance on it then. So, Jeffrey, you've seen more than I have, all types of business owners. Some probably wanted to join your group and you go, I don't even want this person in my group, because they would bring the group down. So it's everything is out there, because and some of those owners make a lot of money because they treat their people so poorly financially and benefit-wise and all that.
Well, but some make a lot of money because they treat their employees so well.
Yes, amen. That's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where I think you're taking people.
Absolutely. So I just want to tie two things together. You said, so you have these coaches, but what I heard you say in between the lines is, if you don't hire enough diverse talent, there are not enough people to promote.
Right. You have to hire that person who has those gifts to go on up the ladder. And so sometimes those people don't want to pay the price and go up the ladder. So people say, and you'll hear this all the time, well, it's really hard to do what we're doing. If it was easy, everybody would do it. We need to do things that are hard. And every time I hear that, I just shake my head. And we say it inside our company too. Well, that's going to be harder every year. Well, hopefully we're a little smarter every year. So we should not shy away from it, shouldn't we?
So to make my takeaway, which is, you know why I do these podcasts? I set these up. I mean, I did them before the pandemic, but then during the pandemic, I'm like, all right, I'm a little lonely. I'm going to do a podcast and I'm just going to interview people that I want to talk. I'm going to do this for me and not for marketing, not for my audience, but just for me to learn something. And man, that's a great motivation because it's worked out so well because my motivation was unselfish, I guess, or selfishly unselfish.
I totally understand that. And the fact that you shared it with other people, you taught other people. One of Don Clifton's Strength Finders things was, if you want to be successful, study success. Not even necessarily in our career. So for years, I studied McDonald's, how they created systems, Caterpillar, just go down the list of companies that were doing what they were doing really well. Today, we would study Chick-fil-A, wouldn't we? How are they running twice the volume McDonald's is and one day less a week?
Yeah.
And the whole thing, the way they put it together, get the right people. It's not cheap. The product is not cheap. Get the right people. Put a smile on your face. Tell people it's my pleasure. And after you tell it 3 times, you actually start meaning it. So it's just magic. My wife checked into the hospital, kind of an odd deal on an allergy thing a couple of weeks ago. And the first thing that the nurse asked her in a faith-based hospital was, who brought you joy and peace today? Think about the reset. And I'm trying to figure out how to use that and change the wording on it as we meet our customers.
Yeah.
What about your yard makes you feel good?
Yeah.
What about your yard could we help work on? Something like that. And I'll have you help me with that when you come and visit. I think you'll probably think things through.
So one of the things that I'm just kind of circling back a little bit, but something I just learned from you, kind of like a little light bulb, is that the talent development has to work with the recruiting person. I mean, those are, when you're small, you think it's the same person, but no, it's 2 different people. And I'm kind of realizing, talking to you, they really better be on the same page. Otherwise, the pipeline will get, you'll have holes in the people pipeline down the road if recruiting is not bringing in that right mix of people.
Yes, you will. A great example of that, my wife's nephew, sells a certain type of insurance. He's got a lot of charisma, very known in his small town of 30, 40,000. He's one of the highest producers for that type of insurance in a 2 or 3 state area. His boss wanted to promote him to a divisional manager. And he said, Larry, why would I want to do that? I'd take a bit of a pay cut. They would expect my type of performance out of the people they want me to hire, which aren't people that are driven like I am. And he had about 4 reasons. He really had thought it through. But I think that what we do in business is we make it so that only the manager can make money. And if we thought those really high producers, we had to make it almost unlimited. And we don't do this even well enough in our own company, but how much money they can make. We have 2 people that are producing $500,000 each and doing a nice job with their clients. And they put a lot of hours in, but neither one of them have children, so they have that extra time. Only one of them is married. The other one is getting married, but they just love work. Let them produce. Why do we say, well, you've got to stop because you need work-life balance? Well, we have another fellow that we do tell to stop because he has children and he works too many hours. And we say, you need to go home and be with your wife and family. So he's gotten older, so not as much as he used to, but that was an issue early on. So
we've covered some great topics here. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and your team. One more topic.
Yes.
And so you're growing organically and through acquisitions. And I know your CFO is going to talk to us, present to us, not only how you do your open book and your incentives, but also a bit about acquisitions. And I was speaking with Philip, your COO, and he told me that your growth rate year over year is pretty modest, and that your organic growth, and then it's on average matched with acquisition. So there's sort of, both together creates nice growth. And it hit me that by doing the slow organic growth, you're not trading revenue for profit. So you're probably making good margin on that organic growth, and then using that to help you finance the acquisition growth. And in total, you get the total growth you want. That's sort of my take on your strategy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. We could grow faster than what we're growing, and we know we could, but we don't want to. Oh, I got to be really careful about that because, it's not like you're not greedy. If we grow 15% a year, we're going to double every 5 years, right? On the rule of 72. So this year, I think we did 73 million last year. The folks are thinking we can do 83 this year. Our goal is to do about 81 million. And 83 will be, to me, celebration time. It'll be enough more than our budget that it'll give some nice bonuses to the people all year long. Yes, if we acquire somebody, we will not acquire a company that we don't think can continue organic growth. We don't want to grow just through acquisitions.
Yeah.
And organic growth takes relationship. If I'm working on your property, Kevin, if you don't like me, I can't ask for a little higher price. If you don't think I'm knowledgeable, I can't ask for a little higher yet price and all that. So it's relationship, knowledge, and all those things. We want to be a little higher priced company because we pay above market. Our total labor cost for the entire company, when you count the overhead labor, runs about 51% a year. That's high. It's a lot higher than a lot of our competition. But because of our commitment to people, we're totally committed to that.
Yeah.
So,
that is high. I've definitely seen higher, but I've definitely seen lower. You're a mostly maintenance and enhancement company, although you have more install now.
Correct. We're probably 80% maintenance and enhancements.
As
Correct.
install comes online, is your total cost going down, or is it sort of a moot point?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Right now, Omaha's doing maybe leading our branches. Actually, not totally true. Let me not talk from my hip and be wrong on that, but we want it to be in line with everything else, and we think it can be because on install, you can charge any price you want. And one of the biggest things people have to get over that do the estimates right is that we aren't going to get every bid. If you get every bid, you're definitely too low.
Yeah.
I want to charge extra because every dollar you charge extra is straight to the bottom line. Yeah. So that's our goal. Yeah.
It's good. I like it a lot.
I hedged on that answer. My apologies, but I want it to be accurate because you don't need statistics that aren't truthful.
Well, this has been good. I'm glad we reconnected. I've learned a lot about your company since we had the first podcast, and I'm very excited. Philip seems like such a great guy. He'll be presenting.
Real smart guy too. And Roy, you got two very top flight people there. You have several that are going to be presenting that I think our people will really enjoy.
And then we're going to visit one of your branches and your headquarters.
Yes. And we want to show you our new software too.
Okay.
It was a nightmare last year, but it is really coming online. If we didn't have some really smart people, we would have pulled the plug on it. But it was that difficult. And we aren't yet.
So some people buy off the shelf, and there's an off the shelf for every industry niche that you're in, but maybe not something that umbrellas well. Did you decide to build your own? I'm going to give you a couple, multiple choice here. Did you decide to build your own because you do so many different things, or because what you do so differently?
Both. The off the shelf for smaller companies and simpler companies is wonderful, and it's not that expensive. What we needed, though, is a way to really look at each opportunity that you have with the client and say, how can we maximize this relationship with you, Jeffrey Scott? And that's what we wanted with our software, plus just so many more things. Help us predict out, because we're building software for 25 years from now. And if we didn't start it now, we would be behind the game. And every year you wait to start, it's that much more expensive, right? So this software is not going to really pay for itself for probably 3 or 4 years. But even this year, it's doing some really fun things for us. Last year at this time, we had our heads down thinking, oh dear, we're going to dig out of this hole. And probably mostly I did, because when you get old, those things are very difficult for you mentally to keep up with. I think the younger people were just smiling. I'll hold up my phone and they were saying, Larry, oops, I can't do it. I got on the cord. Larry, we're going to do the same thing with software that this guy did with the telephone. I don't know that we'll do that, but those are my own words. But we're finding that it's really opening up opportunity for us. So hopefully we'll have a few things to show the people that come through that want to see it, what the potential is of this.
Yeah, I think it's good for people that, even though they'll never have your software, it's good to see what somebody ahead of them is trying to track.
Correct.
Because, you can cobble together and mimic to some extent what you need to when you're smaller. So if I even took away, just a few points of what you're looking at, then I could try to embed that in my company. I know that gets sloppy and messy. But one thing I really like that I'm excited to see is how you have taken cross-selling. And I mentioned this before, but you've made it part of your culture and you've institutionalized it. And it's really like, it's that good to great, the book Good to Great. It's that concept of the hedgehog, and we sell X, and then after X, we sell Y, Z, A, B, C. And I'm excited to see how all the different ways you've gone about this cross-selling approach.
Well, and that's right. The first step in selling, right, is to create awareness. And the second, we have to create preference. And then third, we have to get them to buy. But then after we get them to buy, like they say in a restaurant, 80% of your customers come once a year. How can we get them to come twice a year? We would take our volumes way up. So they call it locus, level of customer activity score. And if we can get them to do a landscape that's $20,000 and lawn care that's $600 and plant health care that's $300 or $400 a year and pest control that's $300 or $400 a year, and you just keep going from there. And then they bring their lawnmower in the wintertime, it's another $140. Okay, where do we stop? So, eventually we've got to get that down to so they can pay for it every month.
It's the lifetime value of a customer.
Yes, it really is, isn't it?
That's kind of like that book concept that you hear, and it's like, what does that mean? But you're telling us what it means.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yes. We had a lady send a note in the other day. She was a 35-year customer, and her husband had died. She was my brother's neighbor, and she just went into a retirement home. I'm 74. I didn't realize she was maybe she's my age. I don't know. But, that's the next thing. And then I think, how do we keep people in their homes longer? So can we do everything outside for them? I mean, it's $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month to go into a nursing or assisted living home, but keeping them in their home, can we do it for $2,000 or $1,500 a month or whatever it is? Enlarge the doors into the bathroom and change the bathroom out.
You're going there? Are you guys going there? Is that right?
Well, you got to think that way, don't you?
Yeah. So let me ask you a really important question with cross-selling. I have found over and over again that a customer's first impression of you kind of locks in place, and it's hard for them to conceive that you or any company does all these other things. And so I think that's got to be one of the biggest obstacles of cross-selling. How do you guys overcome that?
Sergio Zeman wrote a book for Coca-Cola on marketing. He worked for Coca-Cola. He said, branding is done when you and I are talking. And by the way, Jeffrey, I'm here and you like the lawn and I'm looking at your backyard and oh my gosh, if you had a little water feature there beside it, it looks with your patio furniture like you spend a lot of time out there. I don't know, as you get older, you wake up in the middle of the night, let's put a light out there for you to sit and read your book. And we're going to put a water feature so you can hear that gentle sound, and the fact that there'll be no pool there. It's safe. The grandkids won't drown in it. And we can go on and on from there. But, oh, by the way, there's mosquitoes out too. So we'll do a mosquito guard for you through the summer, or if you're only a couple times a year, we'll do an event application for you. Now, do we do all this stuff? No. I'm teaching myself as I talk. Some of us think out loud. Oh dear, you don't want too many people like me around. But you also build on each other's personality. You will give us ideas when you visit us that will create opportunities for us, and we know that. So when you bring in all those special companies that you work with, the teaching is going to be both ways, won't it?
It will be,
and I'm sure that your folks do that with each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
We look forward to that.
Larry, thank you so much for just being you and for sharing today and for opening up your place for us to come visit you in August. This is great. I learned a couple things today, so I really appreciate you.
I appreciate what you do for me and for our industry. I've always said we need to elevate the industry. And Jeffrey, I didn't realize it'd be people like you that will make that happen. Maybe more than we're making it happen. Probably a lot more than we're making. But anyway, let's do it together. I like it.
I appreciate
Thank you very much. Have a great summer. We'll see you in August.
See you soon.
All right. God bless you.